Hello there, good evening, and welcome. Just make sure that the microphone is switched on. 1, 2, testing 1, 2. Good evening and welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Live Irish Myths. Tonight we are on episode number 152. The very first episode, of course, took place on Thursday, the 12th of March 2020, at a time when the Irish government had just announced the first lockdown and restrictions due to the pandemic. First comment is a spammer, so let's get rid of that fairly quickly. Hope you're all keeping well and everybody's safe and sound. We're going to continue the theme of rebirth and reincarnation in Irish mythology. Specifically, we're reading from the work of Alfred Nutt. Pardon me while I just report this and block this. Give feedback or report, spam. Submit. Thank you. Ban from page. Yes, there we go. Sorry about that. The very first comment tonight was... Yes. Anyway, in the house this evening, we are joined, first of all, by Yvette Tillema. Very good to see you, Yvette. And I hope you are well and safe and sound and all that stuff. Elaine Dent Lingenfelter is also here. Excuse me. And seems to think it's funny that she's on time. Facebook user says howdy, and that would be Geróid O'Branagon. Geróid, Conasatatu, the man who knows all about sacred wells in Ireland, having written several books about them. Great to see you. Wandy is in Holland. Good to see you, and also good to see you, Wandy. I don't know how to pronounce your surname. So I'm not going to try because I know I'll just make a mess of it. You're very welcome to the live stream. Good to see you. Geróid says, I'm not a spammer. It wasn't you. Don't worry. Geez, there'd be hard times if you were spamming. No problem. Judy McQueen is in the house. Hello, Judy. Welcome along to the live stream. Helena Breen is also here. Welcome and saying hello to all and sundry. Joe Butler is in Colorado, where it has been a hot day. The weather has taken a noticeable turn here in Ireland. It's been unseasonably warm. But yesterday evening we had a lot of rain overnight. And today it's a lot cooler and blusterier. And windier too. There you go. Guido Bruce is in the house. Hello, Guido. Welcome to the live stream. Robert Friend is in the house. Conasata too. You're very welcome along. Carmel O'Dwyer is saying it's good to see you. Well, it's good to see you also, Carmel. Make sure that you come in, get yourself comfortable. Virtually come in, make yourself comfortable. Get something to drink. Mine is a glass of water. And something nice to go with that. Maybe, I don't know, a fruit scone. Slice of apple pie or something like that. Stephen O'Hara is in the house. Hello, Stephen. Welcome along. Nice to see you as always. Daisy Peters is in the house. Daisy almost never misses an episode. And Daisy's watching in Brazil. Annette is in the house. Hello, Annette. Annette, I still haven't figured out how to pronounce your surname. So please help me with this. Is it Peered or Purred, or is it something else? Please sort of reply with some sort of indication. I hate not knowing how to pronounce people's names, because then I can't say hello to you properly. Erica Bow is in the house. And so, for example, if I'd never known Erica and she hadn't told me, I would say Erica Balk, or Erica Balk, like a fancy way of saying J.S. Balk, But her surname is actually pronounced Bow. So there you go. Susan Scott is in, where are you? Northwest Connecticut. Having a perfect autumn day. Brilliant stuff, Susan. Welcome along. It's peered as in beard. Brilliant. I'm so happy now. Now I know. Finally. And sure, next time I meet you, I'll apologize profusely for making a show of you in front of all these people. Mandy McCurl is, yes, well, same, damp, dull, dark Isle of Mull. You're probably getting the conditions that we had earlier. Maureen Farrell is saying hello from a beautiful day in Rhodesia. Is it Rhodesia Island? Where is Rhodesia Island? I'm going to have to Google that. Oh, is that by any chance? Is that one of these autocorrects? Is it Rhode Island, Maureen? Good afternoon to you. I feel silly now. Michael Darby is in the house. Hello, Michael. And he's watching on YouTube. Don't forget that we're on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get notifications of all live streams and videos. And if you're watching this retrospectively, forgive the first 10 or 15 minutes when we like to say hello to everybody. Helen is in South Dakota. Good evening, Helen. Good afternoon to you. Hope you're keeping well. Barbara Barney is in the house. Hello, Barbara. Sláinte. Carmel O'Dwyer hasn't been here for a while. Looking forward to this birth and rebirth. Love that theme. Brilliant. I think this is the third episode in which we've been exploring that theme. So hopefully you'll be able to rewatch the previous couple of episodes as well. Paul Alburl is on the Alabama Gulf Coast. You're very welcome. Good afternoon to you, Paul. Hope the weather is good on the Alabama Gulf Coast. Now, there's somebody saying something there, and I don't see their comment because it's not visible here on the old Facebook. So I don't know who that is. Hello, Anthony and the mighty Tua de Anton. Hope everyone is well. Happy to be here, and the sun is shining today. Yeah. Who is that? I don't know who that is. I can only see 4 comments under the live stream on Facebook on the Mythical Ireland community. And there are 6 comments, but I can only see 4 of them, and it doesn't give me an option. Anyway, maybe you might identify yourself so we can shout out who you are. Okay, I'm rapidly losing control of the situation here. There's so many comments coming in. Steve Martinson is in Monona, Wisconsin. 80 degrees here. Sounds lovely to see, Steve. Send a bit of that across the ocean to us if you don't mind. Archaeoastronomy Database is in the house. Hello to you. You're very welcome. What's that about the moon? The moon is on the way. The moon is on the way. Moon is on the way. The moon is waning. The moon is on the way to darkness. Kerem Gogus is in the house. My dear friend Kerem, how are you? I hope that things are well. Thank you for joining us this evening. Jay Shaw is in Kootenay Valley in Canada. I hope I pronounced that right. Kootenay in Canada. Jay, you're very welcome to the live stream. Oh my God, I'm really missing loads of stuff here now. Kees is in the Netherlands. Good evening. A very good night to you from Ireland. You're welcome along, Kees, to the live stream. I'm stressing now. Doris O'Hara is in Heidelberg. Hello, Doris. I'm going to have to fly through some of these. Captain Moonlight, any evidence of Neolithic structures in Galway or Connemara? Yes, somebody can answer that, I'm sure. I can't immediately answer it offhand. Galway or Connemara, as in passage tombs, I'm not so sure. Interesting, good question. Movanwe is in the house. Evening, Anthony and the Fabulous Mythflix duo. I'm eating a late dinner again, so won't be writing comments for a few minutes or so, but my full attention will be with you soon. Nobody comes between me and my food. You got your priorities right there, Movanwe. I tell you that for nothing. Peter Woods is in the house. I don't know if I saw you earlier on, but I see you saying hello to Movanwe. Or to Mandy, should I say. Equally dark, damp, loud. Yes, it's been kind of, well, we're getting all the rain that we haven't had for ages. Detroit Farmer is in Corktown, Detroit, Michigan. Is that named after Cork in Ireland? You're very welcome, Detroit Farmer. Great to see you along. The nights are drawing in, says Brendan Byrne, who is in Glendalough. They certainly are. Fiona Newman is in the house. It's been a while. Hello, Fiona. Welcome back. You're very welcome along. Great to see you in the house. Oh my God, this is ridiculous. I mean, it's not ridiculous. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong, but it's impossible to keep up with all these. Maria is in Koblenz in Germany. Hello, Maria. You're welcome. Slánche, Fáilte, and all that. Guitar Storms. Greetings, friends. Slánche. Sheila Gunn is in the house. Yahoo! I got on. Good to see everyone. Hello. Hello, Sheila. Janelle is, where is Janelle? Western Washington. We've been in a severe drought for months. Thankful for rain. Brilliant stuff. Glad to hear you're getting it. Fernando Rivera is in Puerto Rico. Good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. I hope I'm not missing anybody because literally the comments are flying up the screen here. Nuala Doyle is here. Hello, Nuala. Slánche. Malchara. Last year today, I was in Dingle, says Fernando. Wow, lovely part of the world too. Oh, hang on a second. I don't want that noise happening in the background. I do apologise. Turns out I was working late and was still connected to work. So there you go. Paul Campbell is joining us from Galway City. Hello, Paul. Your usual location. Terry Lynn Zacharias is in Colorado. Hello, Terry Lynn. You're very welcome along this evening. Porrick Byrne is in Mount Mellick in County Laois. Hello, Porrick. Just move on to reading, perhaps, says Kerem. Yeah, I should, shouldn't I? And McCallum. Yeah, just because you got your mention. And McCallum saying, happy to be here and the sun is shining. Brilliant. Victory. That's a victory, definitely. The Full Irish GK, that's Gary in South Dublin. Hello, Gary. Sean Doran is in the house. Got to check that guy's YouTube channel out. He puts a lot of brilliant videos together on space themes from the moon and Mars and from the space station and everything. Fabulous stuff. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Definitely. Sean Doran, go and see his YouTube channel and subscribe immediately. Alison Clipsham is saying, happy Mabon, everyone. Happy autumn equinox, whatever that was known as in ancient Ireland. To you, Alison, you're very welcome along. Mary Ryan Sullivan is in Boston in Massachusetts. What a combination of Irish names. Mary and Ryan and Sullivan. Brilliant stuff. There's no denying the Irish in you, Mary. Rex Fortenbury is in Louisiana. Hello, Rex. Good to see you along and returning to our live stream. Sandy McNabb is apparently sitting atop Silbury. I presume that's Silbury Hill. Oh, on Saturday evening. Aha, past tense. Good. Hope the view was nice from up there. Mariana Dunn is in the house and Mariana is in Virginia. Great to see you. Jana Weldon, just finished watching your interview with Bob Quinn. Very interesting. Bob was brilliant. Yeah, I'm hoping to return to the interview series over the winter time. Robert Brown says, hi, Anthony. Welcome along, Robert. Great to see you in the house. Vicky Wallace-Southall is in the house. We haven't seen you in ages. I have missed you, of course. Yes, and we have missed you as well. I hope Evan is there. And if he is, Evan and Chile, a very good evening from Ireland to you guys. Welcome to the live stream. Barbara Murphy is waiting for the vet to call. Hope it's nothing serious. And sure, no problem. She can catch up on the rewatch, as it were. Karen, Susan Scott, Anthony is running to keep up with all of us. He certainly is. It just seems to be one of those nights where everybody's, I think it's the shortening days and the longer nights. Hello from wet again, thank God. Seattle, Kelly, a few people are grateful for the rain. We've actually had quite a dry period. Sean Doran is blushing now, but you'll see, what is it, the Shawning, isn't it, on YouTube? I'm going to embarrass you even more here now. Is it the Shawning or is that your Twitter? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's your Twitter, isn't it? You'll find him on Twitter as the Shawning. Sean Doran. Let's have a look here now till we find you. Transforming satellite data into compelling art and media, etc., etc. Subscribed. Yes, I know I'm subscribed. Thank you. So it's, Sean Doran, SEAFODAN, So there you go. Straight over to his YouTube channel and subscribe immediately. Archaeoastronomy database. I suspect you will particularly enjoy Sean's videos if you haven't already seen them already. Seamus Mars in the house in Newry. Hiya, Seamus. Welcome back to the live stream. Great to see you. Barb Jordan is in the house. Hello, Barb. Pagan Tree is in the house. Hello, Pagan Tree. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. Tom Shanahan is in New Zealand. A very good morning to you, Tom. Happy Tuesday morning from Aboyne Valley, where it is still Monday evening. Oh, we seem to be up to date. What's that? What are we on? 15. Oh my goodness me. Sorry, I have to lean over to see the time. Yeah, 15. Episode number 152. Anyway, tonight we are continuing the theme of metempsychosis, rebirth, and reincarnation in Irish mythology, particularly in the story of the Two Swineherds, which you may also know as the story of the Two Pig Keepers, which I think is one of the Remscale or the introductory tales to the Toynbee Cúinge saga in Irish mythology. James Farrelly is saying thanks for a book that was recommended. Brilliant stuff, James. Glad we were able to help you. Sandy McNabb is in the house. Katrina Gibbs is in Chicago. Wishing you a great day. You too, Katrina. Welcome along. Patricia Wardell is in Trieste. Hello there, Patricia. And welcome to Live Irish Myths. Am I missing anyone else, or am I up to date? I'm up to date. And for those who don't know what I'm reading from, and particularly for Yvette Tillema, who always wants to know, I'm reading from The Voyage of Bran, son of Febal, to the Land of the Living, an old Irish saga, edited and translated by Kuno Meyer, with essays upon the Irish vision of the Happy Otherworld and the Celtic doctrine of rebirth by Alfred Nutt. And this is volume 2. This was originally published in, as we saw last week, 1897. And so that's a modern facsimile reprint. And that's what it looks like. It's... What is the name of the Alpha Editions, which, curiously enough, Seamus Marr, you might be interested in this, has the AE symbol. George William Russell went as AE. So, I mean, trying to get your hands on the original would probably cost you a few €100 or a few $100, but I think I paid less than a tenner for this. And it is like literally, it's a facsimile reprint. So they don't, it's not retypeset or anything like that. It's like a photocopy, or a good quality photocopy of the original. So anyway, if we're all ready, our Tom is missing. Good point, Elaine. Where is our Tom? He's out in the forge, I hope, forging. I hope he's too busy forging. Riley Flynn, mind you, he usually tunes in when he's in the forge. Riley Flynn is in the house. And Anne Sheldon says, hello from a Gallagher descendant in Proctorsville in Vermont. Hello, Anne. And welcome. The Gallagher. Great to see the Gallaghers joining us. Oh, Janelle, that's very... sorry. That wasn't what I was supposed to highlight. Sorry, Helen. Janelle says, your passion for Indigenous heritage has inspired me to acquire Irish, along with my children, as our fourth language. Brilliant stuff. Now, if only I could learn to speak it as my second, I'd be doing well. But brilliant. Thank you, Anthony, says Yvette. Yeah, always a pleasure, Yvette. Where is Tom? Somebody ring Tom and tell him to get onto the live stream. Anyway, let's go. The foregoing stories, these are the ones that we read previously, are concerned with the fortunes of kings and heroes. They form part of the web of myth, heroic adventure, fantastic romance, and historic reminiscence that go to the making of heroic saga. Our next tale is purely romantic and unconnected, save loosely and artificially, with the great cycles of heroic legend. It is the story entitled The Begetting of the Two Swineherds, and it has been edited and translated into German by Professor E. Windisch in Irish Text 3.1. That's one I don't have in my library. From the 15th century manuscript Egerton 1782. And of course, we said last week that that is just a catalogue number for the manuscript. It is not a year. Egerton 1782. Generality has joined the live stream. Hello, Generality. We'll give you a nice general welcome. Patricia McTague is joining us live. Hello, Patricia. I hope you enjoy it. A shorter form of the story is preserved by the 12th century manuscript, the Book of Leinster. Up to a certain point, the two versions agree closely and give the incidents with great fullness. But after a time, the Book of Leinster scribe, or the scribe of the older manuscripts copied into the Book of Leinster, seems to have tired of his task and to have merely jotted down the heads of the story. He got lazy. As no English version is accessible, and as the tale is of the greatest interest to students of romance and folklore, I propose to give the narrative part almost entire, availing myself of a translation of the Book of Leinster version, kindly made for me by Professor Kuno Meyer, up to the point where it ceases to give the story in full detail, and rendering the latter portion from Professor Windish's German translation of the Egerton version. So there you go. In 1897, there was no English translation of the Begetting of the Two Swineherds. Pretty sure if any of you have Kinsella's, Thomas Kinsella's Toyn, and I have several different iterations of it here. I'm pretty sure it's in here. Yeah. How the bulls were begotten. I'm sure it's in here as one of the Rem scale. Let me just check that now. I'm doubting myself all of a sudden. Yeah, the quarrel of the two pig keepers and how the bulls were begotten, not forgotten. Yes. What caused the two pig keepers to quarrel? It is soon told. So it's in the very popular modern Toyn translation by Thomas Kinsella. Just in case you don't have access to the Alfred Nutt / Kuno Meyer volume, which I'm reading from, you'll get a version of it. The Begetting of the Two Swineherds, and this is the Book of Leinster text initially. Whence is the Begetting of the Swineherds? The advantage of having the Kinsella version, by the way, is that the English won't be just quite as archaic. You know, Michael Pike is in the house. Hello, Michael. Welcome. Good afternoon to you. Make yourself comfortable. I have the original Dolman Press illustrated in hardback. Lovely, lovely. Yeah, I mean, the Louis Le Brocquoy paintings are in the paperback version, you know. But I just can't imagine what it must be like to have a beautiful hardback version of it, you know. That's a nice one to have in your library, Sean. Consider me officially jealous. And maybe you pass me on your address when you get a chance. Whence is the begetting of the swineherds? Not hard, viz. the swineherd of Ochel Ochni and the swineherd of Bov. That's B-O-D-B, pronounced Bov. The latter, king of the She of Munster, the former of the She of Connacht. Bov, I think, is Bov Jarag, who is a brother of Dagda. The She of Bov, that is She or Famine. Fevan, F-E-M-U-N, yes, Fevan. The She of Ochel is She Connachar. There was friendship between the two. They had two swineherds called Friach and Rucht. Friach was Bov's swineherd and Rucht Ochel's. And there was also friendship between them, viz. Both possessed the lore of paganism and used to shape themselves into any shape, as did Mungon, the son of Fiachna. So here we go already. We have two she kings, or two of the Danann kings, who have two swineherds who could apparently turn themselves into any creature that they wanted. And I'm saying hello to Erica, who's in Ipswich in Suffolk. Welcome along, Erica. Fáilte. The friendship of the two swineherds was of this sort, viz. We don't use that anymore. Viz. When there was mast in Munster, the swineherd from the north would come with his lean swine to the south, and vice versa. People tried to make mischief between them. The men of Connacht said the power of their swineherd was greater. And here is this inter-provincial rivalry that we continue to see today, mostly in the form of Gaelic games. But yes, it goes back a long, long way. The men of Munster said theirs was greater. Oh, one year there was great mast in Munster. Mast is the nuts from, that fall from the trees in the autumn, which apparently the wild boars, of the Mesolithic and the early Neolithic would have gorged upon. One year there was great mast in Munster. The swineherd from the north came southward with his swine. His comrade bade him welcome. They're hounding us one against the other. These people say, thy power is greater than mine. It is certainly not less, said Uchel's swineherd. Is Tom in the house, is he? Anne Scott Doherty is here. Welcome along, Anne. It's great to see you. And John Main is in Belmullet in County Mayo. Hello, John. Excuse me, I need to sneeze. I think that was about an 8 on the Richter scale. It is certainly not less, said Uchel's swineherd. We can test that, said Bov's swineherd. I shall hinder thy swine. And apparently the Egerton manuscript gives, I shall bespell thy swine. Though they feed on the mast, they shall not be fat, while mine shall. And thus it fell out. Then Uchel's swineherd went home with his lean swine. They hardly reached there, what with their wretched state. People laughed at him when he reached home. Thou wentest in an evil hour. And the other thing that sort of grates a little bit when you're reading these late 19th century translations of Irish mythology that are in archaic English is that, like when these stories were being told long before they were written down, they were being told in Irish, and to hear them in this archaic English is kind of a little bit strange. But anyway, it's what we have, and it's what we deal with. Tom King, no Brown Zone. We were just asking where you were. You'll see it on the replay. We were wondering, but it's good that you're here. That's better. Alan Hoskins is also saying that it's better late than never. Absolutely right. Thou wentest in an evil hour, they say to him. Thy comrade's power is greater than thine. That is not good, said he. We shall have mast in our turn, and I shall play the same trick on him. And so it happened. Bov's swine dwindled away, so that everyone said their power was equal on both sides. Bov's swineherd returned from the north with his lean swine. Then Bov took his swineherd's office from him. The man in the north also had his taken from him. Then there were 2 full years in the shapes of ravens, 1 year in the north, in Connacht on Dún Crochan, another year on Shiar Febal. There the men of Ulster came together on a certain day. The men of Munster came together on a certain day. What a noise the birds are making, said they. For a whole year have they been slanging each other and never ceasing. Nothing like a good slagging match or slanging match, as they say in Ireland. While they were saying this, Fugil mac Fiadvara, the steward of Uchel, came towards them on the hill. They bid him welcome. What a noise your birds are making before your eyes. One would think they were the same 2 birds which we had in the north last year. Then they saw the 2 ravens change into human shape and recognized them for the 2 swineherds. They bade them welcome. Yes, it is a smoother prose, Mandy. That's a very good way of putting it. It absolutely is. Yes, indeed. Virginia is in. Sorry, missed that. Pressed the wrong button there. Apologies. Where is that gone to? Virginia is in Las Vegas. Good evening to you. Good afternoon, Virginia. You're welcome. Just making sure I'm not missing anything else. It is not right to welcome us, said Bov's swineherd. There will be many corpses of friends and great wailing through us too. What has happened to you, said Bov. Nothing good, said he. Since we went from you, we have been 2 years in the shape of birds. You have seen what we have done before your eyes. In that wise, we were a whole year in Crochan, another year on Shiar Febal, and the men from the north and the south have seen the power of both of us. We shall now go into the shape of water beasts and be under the seas to the end of 2 other years. Thereupon one of them went into the Shannon, the other into the Suir, and they were 2 years under water. A whole year they were seen in the Suir devouring each other. Another year they were seen in the Shannon. So they're turning into like a little bit like the Ulfest or the Mata, as we would know the water monster from the Boyne Valley. Forgive me, I just have to walk out of the library for 30 seconds to do something. I will be back in 30 seconds. Please feel free to entertain each other in my absence. Just had to check that the cooker was off. It's amazing the things you remember in the middle of a live stream. Up to this point, the Book of Leinster version, save for the greater concision of style, corresponds closely with that in Egerton 1782. But from this onwards, only the bare facts of the transformations are given. I therefore quote the remainder from Professor Vindish's translation of the Egerton version. Quick, everyone change places. Brilliant. Super Enter says that was quick. Yeah, well, I mean, the kitchen is literally just in the next room, so that was easy enough to do. One day, the men of Connacht had a great gathering at Ednecha on the Shannon, Ednecha, and there they saw the 2 beasts, each as big as a mound or the peak of a hill, and they assailed each other so furiously that fiery swords darted out of their jaws and reached to the sky. Fabulous stuff. That would have been a quick visit to the loom of Hanway. That, I mean, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that might happen in the future. It's like, let's take a commercial break here, folks. Where was I? The folk came about them from every side. They came out of the Shannon, and as they touched the shore, lo, before the eyes of all, 2 man-shapes, and they were known for the 2 Swineherds. Ochel bade them welcome. What were your wanderings, said he. Truly wearisome wanderings our wanderings. You have seen what we did in your sight. 2 whole years have we been in this wise in the seas and waters. Nora Gaffney O'Connor is in the house. All good, Nora. And we're just literally talking about the 2 Swineherds who had taken the form of water monsters and had been in the water for 2 years. I wonder, have you been in the Shannon lately? Patricia Wardell wants to know where on the Shannon. It gives the name at Ednecha, Ednecha. And to be honest with you, I have never heard of that. The place names of the town. Hang on till I just find out whether it's just. I know there are a list of place names given in Kinsella's town. Just on the off chance that it's in there, if I can find it. Yeah, it might not be. Somebody else might know, though. No, I don't see it immediately, so. Swine as in rashers, yeah. Swine as in pigs, absolutely, Nora, yep. 2 whole years have we been in this wise in seas and waters. Now we must take fresh shapes, that each may further test his comrade's might. Coda says hello. And they went each his own way. Now for another space of time, they were 2 champions. One took service with Bov, king of the She of Munster, the other with the king of She, Nento Fohishke, that is Fergna. That's a very unusual. Fohishke is underwater, I think. But Nento, Nento, don't know what that is. Every feat of Bov's men was by the hand of the champion. 'Twas the same with his comrade of She Nento. The fame of each soon spread throughout Ireland. None knew whence either came. Bov went into Connacht, for the men of Connacht had a great gathering at Loch Riach. That's Loch Ree. I omit a long description of the troop he took with him. Never had come a better warrior host, nor shall there come its like to the end of the world. 70 women and the same number of children died beholding them. What? 70 women and the same number of children. Was it 70 is what? 140 women and 140 children died just looking at these two champions. Okay, we'll go along with that. Bov and his... speaking of dogs, we just got another dog. I'm going to call him Rolex. He's a watchdog. Sorry, I'll continue the story now. Bov and his followers sit upon the men. I'm not really getting another dog. That was a terrible joke, I know. Bov and his followers sit upon the men of Connacht, literally, and crush the life out of the most of them. A parley between the two kings winds up with a challenge from Bov's champion, Rin. Yes, a lot of people using the face-slapping emoji. I can understand why. Then the three Connachts spake together, and there was found no man among them to go forth against Rin. "'Tis a shame," said Ochel, "our honour is lost." Then they saw somewhat a host from the north, brackets, I omit a long description of the brilliant appearance of the strangers, close bracket. When they came, the men of Connacht stood up and made place for them, whence the saying, quote, "Until the day of doom, Connacht men under the yoke. The tending of the sons of kings and queens, the tending of hounds, such is their lot forever," unquote. Few people laughing at the joke, so I'm not sure. Maybe there is a career for me in comedy if this all fails. And there's a footnote here about that. The indignant scribe has here interpolated the following remark. This is entirely untrue, for at that time there were no Connacht men in the world, for they are the seed of Fergus MacRoig, and at that time he was not born. 'Tis the men who aforetimes were in the land that is now Connacht that stood up. This historical gloss dates back in all possibility to the common original of both the Book of Leinster and Egerton 1782. It is just the remark that an 11th century scribe, familiar with the systemization of Irish legend that had taken place in the previous 100 years, might be expected to make. The value of an interpolation like this is twofold. It proves how carefully the scribe followed his model, even when it outraged his scholarly convictions. And it proves the lateness of the historical scheme in which he believed so firmly. For, as we shall see, our story in its present form can hardly be carried further back than the 9th or 8th century. Sorry, I'm just taking a note. Yes, indeed. Scribes interfering with manuscripts. Where have we heard about that before? Except for on lots and lots of episodes of Live Irish Myths. So there are two versions, it seems. Well, there was one here that starts with the letter A in brackets. A. The host sits down and welcome is proffered. "Welcome to you," said Ochel. "We have trust," said Fergna. "'Tis pitiful," said Meinchen, a druid from Britain. "From now on and forever, Fergna, when thou seest a king, thou and thy seed shall lag in his tracks. Till now thou wast. Oh, why don't I just translate this into ordinary English, into modern English? Till now you were Fergna the Straight. From now on you shall be Fergna the Crooked, and yield tribute for your kingship forever. Where have you left your horses?" "On the plain. There lay before you land and dominion, but another came before you and has chosen them." "Who is that?" said Fergna. "Bov, king of the She of Munster," said he. And he saw him in the gathering, a score of men. As they saw him in the gathering, a score of men fell dead before him for horror and deadly terror. In all the three Connachts there was found no man to fight against Rin. Then said Febal, I will go against him. Unwelcome tidings, said Rin. Therewith they shocked against each other and fought for 3 days and 3 nights. They smote each other. I love that word. Smote. Yes, lest I smite the earth with a curse. Last sentence, last line of the Old Testament, isn't it? Malachi. Lest I smite the earth with a curse. Sorry, anyway. They smote each other in such wise that their lungs were visible. That's weird. Then they were separated. We don't get TV shows we don't get sort of gladiatorial stuff like that these days. Thereafter, they went astray and became 2 demons, and a third of the folk died for fright at them. The next morning, they lay ill, but Buv took the field afterwards and carried off a full victory. And now this is section B, or at least it has a B in brackets. Louis is in the house. You're very welcome. Settled in with my dogs for another wonderful reading. Brilliant stuff. Is one of them called Rolex? He could be a watchdog. Never mind, it was a joke I told earlier, and a few people slapped their faces when I said it. Yeah, that's what it says, Mavan Wade. Their lungs were visible. Let me just check that again. They smote each other in such wise that their lungs were visible. Okay, this is B. Then came 2 other hosts to the gathering, one from Leinster and one from Meath. 3 times 50 was the count of each of them. There we go. There's thrice 50 again, folks. You know the way we're always saying. I did say it a few episodes ago when we had episode 150. Thrice 50 is a popular number in Irish mythology. Usually just means a large crowd, an uncountable number. 3 times 50 was the count of each of them, namely Breg Macmeige and Lorc Macmaishton. Leinster's men went to the King of Connacht. Meath's king went to Buv. 2 heroes each had fought with one another on the field and smote each other so that their lungs became visible. The host, sorry, excuse me, sounds like they're performing some sort of open chest surgery, you know. The hosts rose up thereafter, one against the other, and a battle was fought between them. And the 4 kings fell, namely Lorc and Breg, and Ochel and Corpra Crum, king of Dalriada. It was in she Nento Fo He Ishkiv. It is nothing less than weird that their lungs are visible. Buv cleanses the battlefield thereafter and went to his own land and takes the 2 champions with him, namely Rin and Febal. And there's a footnote here which I will read. I like to read the footnotes. I have quoted here these 2 paragraphs in full as exemplifying the confused and obscure way in which the story is told, as well as the characteristic inclusion of varying accounts of the same episode. For, as will have been noticed at once by the careful reader, paragraph B is a different version of the events recorded in paragraph A. In the one, Munster and Connacht are alone in presence. In the other, Leinster and Meath likewise join in the fray. In both cases, Munster remains victorious. Maeshtew is a well-known ferry mound 5 miles east of Athy in Kildare. Breg Macmeige recalls Midger of Bray, Ethane's husband, whose fairy palace was at My Bray. Oh, there you go. I didn't make that connection, but there you go. I'll just take a note about that. The scribe seems to have muddled his information. Corpra the Crooked, king of Dalriada, i.e. northeast Ulster, in the paragraph B version seems to correspond to Fergna the Crooked from the north in the paragraph A version. It should be noted that in the paragraph A version, Fergna is accompanied by a druid from Britain who, as is common in Irish heroic legend, stirs up his masters to action by taunts and foresayings. The historical background of both versions is the same. Munster, aided by Meath, is ranged against the rest of Ireland and comes off victorious. So I'll go back to the text now. That was the footnote. Yes, Keys. I'm guessing maybe something like that. Yeah, you know. Mandy McCurl. It's only a chest wound, recalling the famous Battle of the Knights in Monty Python. What was that? Was that the Holy Grail? Was it? It wasn't the Life of Brian. It was the Holy Grail, wasn't it? Yeah, it's only a flesh wound. Brilliant. Dalriada. Yes, that's. Isn't that where the Scotty were, and they went across to Scotland? Was it to Argyll, Mandy, and that's how Scotland got its name from the tribe of the Dalriada, who are known as the Scotty. Am I right about that, or am I completely wrong? Lungs were visible equals extreme exertion. Yeah, and Mandy says yes. Holy Grail. Yeah, brilliant movie, very funny. Thereafter, they go into the shape of water beasts. That is, the shape of two worms, which is interesting because we often said that the Mata sounded a bit like some sort of giant, water serpent or something like that. One went into the spring of Uaran Garad in Connacht, the other in the river Cringe in Ulster. Once upon a time, Maeve went from Cruachan to the spring after she had washed her face. She went to the spring after she washed her face. I was just making sure I read that right, and I did. Once upon a time, Maeve went from Cruachan to the spring after she had washed her face, a small bronze vessel in her hand that she might wash her hands. She dipped the vessel in the water, and the beast went swiftly into the vessel, and every colour was to be seen upon him. Long she stood beholding it, and the colour of the beast seemed beautiful to her. The water vanished. Yeah, this is fascinating. The water vanished, and the beast remained alone in the vessel. Pity it is, thou creature, said the queen, that thou dost not speak and tell me somewhat of my fortunes after I have won the sovereignty of Connacht. What wouldst thou soonest ask? Said the beast. This sounds more like it's being read from the Arthurian legends with the way the English is. I would fain know how it is with you in your beast shape, said she. Truly a plagued beast I am, and in every shape I have been. Then he gave her good counsel. Fair as thou art, thou shouldst take to thee a good man to be with thee in thy sway. I have no wish, said she, to take a man of Connacht to have the upper hand of me. We know a man for thee, Ailil, here a lengthy eulogium, which I omit. The beast added, Food shall come to me from thee every day to this spring. Crunyuk is my name. Maeve went home, and the beast went back into the spring. That very day, Fiachna Macdara went to the river Crin in Coolnia, and Coolnia is Cooley, which is not far up the way here from us here in County Louth. Louis says, my beasts never speak to me so eloquently. Yeah, it's all in the training, Louis. All in the training. Is it Louis or Louis? Louis, I presume. Maybe you'd correct me on that. Again, I don't like to have the names pronounced wrong. Thank you, Michael. Excuse me. I've lost my place now. Yes, Fiachna Macdara went to the river Crin in Coolnia. As he was washing his hands, he saw somewhat a beast on a stone before him, and no colour but was on it. "'Tis well so, Fiachna," said the beast. Actually, yes, just take a note of the fact that that's in Cooley. That's interesting. "'Tis well so, Fiachna," said the beast. Fiachna was frightened and stepped back a little. "Don't run away or be frightened. It will be better for thee to speak with me." "What have we to say to each other?" said the king. "That thou art a lucky man, and shalt find a ship full of treasures in thy land." "After that," said Fiachna, "house me and treat me well," said the beast. "How can I treat you well?" "Give me food." "Why should I? You are only a beast," said Fiachna. "In reality, I am a man, Bov's swineherd." "Thy name?" "Tummuck. Tummuc." We have heard of thee, said Fiachna. The story then tells how Fiachna found his treasure and how he fed Tummuck with his own hand for a year, Maeve doing the same by Cruinneach. One day Fiachna went to the river. Come and talk with me, said he to the beast. Well, it is for thee, said the beast. Blessing of corn and milk, of sea and land upon thee, for thou hast been very friendly towards me. Now I am looking forward to a great combat with the beast that I told thee of last year, that is in Connacht at this time. How may that be? asked the king. Not hard to say. Tomorrow one of thy cows shall drink me, whilst one of Maeve's shall drink my comrade. Therefrom shall 2 bulls be born, and there shall be great war in Ireland on our account. Fare thee well. All came true as he said. The names of these beasts in their diverse shapes were these: Rucht and Ruchne, as swineherds. And there's a footnote that says, it will be noticed that these names differ from those assigned to the swineherds in the opening of the story, another instance of the fusion of variant versions. Rucht and Ruchne as swineherds, Ingen and Etche as ravens, Bled and Blood, the 2 sea beasts, Bled and Blod, Rin and Favar as champions, Cruinneach and Tummuck, 2 worms, Finn and Dove, 2 bulls, White Horn and Black of Coolney, the finest bulls ever seen in Ireland. And of course, we are here talking about Finn Benach, the white horned, and Dun Coilga, the black of Cooley, or the dark. Dun can be brown as well. The finest bulls ever seen in Ireland. Their horns were decked with silver and gold by the provinces of Ireland. In Connacht, no bull dared bellow before the bull of the West, nor in Ulster did any dare bellow before the bull of the East. It may be well to give what corresponds in the Book of Leinster to the foregoing pages, translated from Egerton 1782. The language is obscure, and Professor Meyer has had to leave several words unrendered. And so we give what we can of it from Professor Kuno Meyer's translation. Again, there were 2 stags, and either of them would gather the ellipsis. Ellipsis is where there's a blank in the text, obviously the 3 dots, of the other, so that he made an ellipsis of the abode of the other. They were 2 champions wounding each other. There were 2 spectres, either of them terrifying the other. There were 2 dragons, either of them beating snow on the land of the other. They dropped down from the air and were 2 worms. Fascinating. So we're here being told that there were dragons who turned into worms, that they were in the air. Brilliant. Fascinating. Sorry, I'm taking notes in the margins here. Fascinating stuff. One of them went into the well of Glascringe in Coilga, where a cow of Dara MacFiachni drunk it up. The other went into the well of Garad in Connacht, where a cow of Maeve and Eileals drank it, so that from them sprang the 2 bulls, the white horn I, or E, AI, and the Dun of Coilga. That is Finn Benach and Dun Coilga. Their names were Rucht, which means snout, and Ruchna when they were swineherds, Ingen, talon, and Etche, wing, when they were birds, Bled, whale, and blood, B-L-O-D, when they were sea beasts. I don't know what the blood means. Let me just check. Let's, just as a matter of interest, look up the Dictionary of Irish, the Edel for blood, and see if there is a translation for it. It's possibly just a variant. Blad. It said for blood, look up Blad, B-L-A-D. And that translates as fame or renown. In something, famous deeds, glories, triumphs. Okay, not sure. We can come back to that anyway. Bled, whale, and blood when they were sea beasts. Rind, point, and Favar, edge when they were champions. Ska, shadow, and Skia when they were spectres. Crunyuk and Tunyuk when they were worms, and doesn't give any translations there. The white horn of E and the dun of Culnia when they were cattle. The unprejudiced reader will certainly agree with the Professor Windich that the Book of Leinster Scribe or his model had before him a complete version, the same substantially as that now found in the 15th century manuscript Egerton 1782. There are, however, slight differences. Thus, the Book of Leinster mentions 2 transformations into stags and into dragons, unknown to Egerton 1782, but unknown also to the final recapitulation of the legend which it gives itself. A further proof of this, if more were needed, that the story as it stands embodies accounts drawn from different sources. The loss of the dragon transformation is particularly regrettable. One remembers the fighting dragons of the Brythonic Merlin story. It is of interest to note that the Dinshanicus has preserved the Two Swineherds legend in forms differing from both the Book of Leinster and the Egerton versions. In the Dinshanicus of Alt Loam, we learn that the 2 swineherds were incarnate in 7 shapes, a full year in each of them. Let me just take another note here. Sorry about this. And those were Crun of Agnovan's 2 sons, named Rucht and Ruchne. Etche and Engan, wing and talon, were their 2 names, and they were birds. Cu and Kehen, when they were wolves. Well, Cu means a hound. Bled and blood were they when trout of the Boyne. Wow. Fascinating stuff here. Especially given that the Salmon of Knowledge mural is being painted in Drogheda at the moment. Crunyuk and Dovmuck when they were worms. Now, Dovmuck sounds like it's literally black pig. Dove and muck. And I'm just going to take a question mark. This is so exciting. I need to go back to this. Tom Lawler is in the house. Hello, Tom. Conas atá too. And Barbara has rejoined us. Thanks, Barbara, for coming back again. Hope everything's all right. Another Dinshanicus is that of Limnach, and these are from Revue Celtique, so this is the Wren prose Dinshanicus, not the metrical, the poetic Dinshanicus. Represents again an entirely different form of the story and is worth quoting in full. There was a set meeting between Munster and Connacht, and the 2 kings brought with them their champions, the 2 sons of Smuchil, son of Bachdov. Rind and Favar were their names. One of the twain placed himself under the safeguard of Bov of Shiar Femin, the other that of Ochel of Shi Cruachan. The champions displayed their swineherd's art. To judge between them, every one pressed into the stream. Thereupon came the flood tide, which they had not perceived, and carried off their cloaks. These variant forms, all witnessed to by pre-11th century texts, show the popularity and widespread of the story. The begetting of the 2 swineherds, for the most part, a folktale pure and simple, perhaps the earliest noted folktale of post-classic European literature, interests us not alone for the striking way in which it presents the rebirth conception, but also, for its allusion to the Mungan story. The shape-shifting power possessed by Mungan, son of Fiachna, is especially signalled out as the chief attribute of the swineherds. Alike then for the history of the rebirth conception in Irish literature and for the history of the Mungan legend, it is necessary to date our story as precisely as may be. The date of the Book of Leinster, about 1140, supplies a terminus ad quem, and the version of this manuscript, presupposing, as we have seen, an earlier one, It is safe to date it back to the early 12th century at the very latest. A terminus a quo for the present form of the story is supplied by the fact that it is formally numbered among the Remscéla, or introductions to the Táin Cúailnge, the raid for the Kine of Cooley, the greatest of Irish hero tales. For the last transformation of the two swineherds is into the bulls, the cause of the raid and of the wars that ensued. The story runs thus: Maeve, the famous Connacht queen, vaunting her possessions as greater than those of her husband Ailill, is angered by his remark that her cow, well, her bull actually, should be, Finbenach, is inferior to the Black of Cooley. She forms the plan of raiding Ulster and carrying off Finbenach's rival. Assembling the men of Ireland, this is a summary of Táin Cúailnge, which we will be featuring in a series of episodes in the future. Assembling the men of Ireland and taking advantage of the moment when the Ulster warriors are en couvade, she invades the land. But Cuchulainn, exempt from the consequences of the curse that weakens his comrades, single-handed holds at bay the forces of Ireland and gives Conchobar and his warriors the time to recover. Later, Maeve succeeds for a while. What's that called? The intoxication of the Ulstermen. Later, Maeve succeeds for a while in carrying off the champion bull, but when brought into Connacht, he attacks and destroys his rival and returns home. And there you have, in one paragraph, a complete spoiler for the Táin Cúailnge. I should have said that before I read it. There you go. Now, the present text of this heroic romance goes back substantially, for it was interpolated and worked over in succeeding ages, to the early 7th century. The story goes that it had faded from the memory of the bards of Ireland, and that Fergus, Conchobar's uncle, rose from the dead at the intercession of the saints of Ireland to tell it to Sencan Torfeist, the chief bard of the day. Wow! The saints made Conchobar's uncle rise from the dead to tell the story. Fantastic stuff. A version of the story without any mention of the saints of Ireland must be as old as the 9th century, as part of it is embedded in the oldest portion of Cormac's glossary. And of course, Cormac's glossary, Sanas Cormac, dating, I think, from the 900s, the 10th century, I think. The legend allows of but one interpretation. Sencan Torfeist, a perfectly historical personage, was the author of a redaction of the Táin, which supplanted all earlier versions, and the merits of which were so transcendent as to confer upon it the preeminence it has enjoyed throughout the entire range of native Irish literature. It became the fashion to attach other stories, originally independent, to the Táin by way of introduction or continuation. Generality, I have to share that. That would be annoying, somewhat inconvenient, wouldn't it, to be woken from the dead to tell a story. Gaelic Elvis wants to know, have you the Geoffrey Keating book History of Ireland? I have one volume of it. I think I have volume one. Let me just check, actually. I mean, sure, why not? Yes, Keating Part 1, Irish Text Society volume. Foras Fasa or Aaron. I have volume 1. I think it's a 2-volume work. I only have volume 1. I wonder why you're asking, but I'd be interested to find out. Vicky. Yes, I'm not entirely sure that my old Gaelic pronunciation is perfectly sound, but sure, it might be too far off the mark. Speaking of dragons, were dragons considered dinosaurs? You see, this is something that we'll never know. Is it a case that, sometime somebody was digging and found huge bones and said, hey, look, once upon a time there were huge monsters, Helena tells us that seahorses were considered water dragons. As early as the first quarter of the 11th century, there was an official list of 12 recognised Remscéla, or introductions to the Táin, and among these is our story. The idea was an ingenious one, far more so than is the case with many of the other Ramskela, some of which have very little connection, apparent to the modern reader, with the Táin. To explain the rivalry of the two bulls, they were made avatars of the wizard swineherds, the first occasion of whose dissension thus became the ultimate cause of the great war in which perished so many heroes. Yeah, so that is fascinating because essentially these two pig keepers were originally friends, very good friends, who said, if your crop or your harvest of mast is not good, come down here and sure your pigs can eat mine, and vice versa. They were good friends who fell out. Fascinating stuff. But the artificial character of the proceeding is obvious. The Toynbee Culne, a glorification of Ulster, is the supreme apotheosis of the chief Ulster brave, Cuchulainn. Whilst the begetting of the two swineherds, insofar as it involves historical and racial data, sets forth the rivalry of Munster and Connacht and is, in effect, a long factum on Munster's behalf. Never could such a story have been, from the onset, an integral portion of the Táin cycle. Yet, it easily lent itself to incorporation in a saga of which the dominant idea was the failure of Connacht and the triumph of Connacht's foe. Skill and consistency were shown by the adapter. It is the Munster swineherd who finally animates the redoubtable Black of Culne. The foregoing conclusions are strengthened by examination of the text. There is a marked difference between what may be called the original story and the Ulster continuation intended to fit it into the Táin cycle. The former is meagre, confused, often incoherent. One feels that the narrator cared for little more than the actual sequence of incidents, and that he was at little pains to give life and animation to the narrative. He was only repeating the story of an alien and indifferent, if not a hostile tribe. The moment the familiar personages of the Táin cycle come upon the scene, the tone changes. Precise, animated, and appropriate detail replaces the confused hurry of the older part. The few words placed in Maeve's mouth reveal at once the proud, ambitious woman who will have no mistress save herself, whose character is so strongly and consistently marked throughout the Táin cycle. Whilst Fiachna, the cautious, timid, avaricious kinglet, is presented with equal dramatic skill. Thus, the begetting of the two swineherds in its present form is the working up of an older tale, originally South Irish, to fit it into the great northern cycle of Conchobar and Cuchulainn. Yeah, that's a very interesting point because geographically, geopolitically, even more importantly, these two areas are diverse. Extant, certainly, in the early part of the 11th, it cannot well be older than the middle or end of the 8th century. That is just purely talking in terms of when it was written down. I should be disposed to attribute it to the 8th century, to that period of comparative calm before the outbreak of the Viking storm, which we may conjecture to have been the golden age of Irish storytelling, rather than to the Irish Renaissance period, 950 to 1050, when the land was recovering from the Viking invasions and reconstituting its ancient mythic and historic literature. And that's very interesting too, because the reason there are no manuscripts from the 10th century is apparently because they were all destroyed by the Vikings. If these conclusions are valid, there is little weight to be attached to the Mungan reference. It may have been added at any time between the composition of the story as we have it and the period early 11th century to which we can trace back the existing manuscript text. Even if it is due, as is quite possible, to the 8th century northern storyteller who drafted the Munster tale into the northern cycle, it simply proves that there were extant in his day stories concerning Mungan, the shapeshifter, a conclusion we had already reached upon other grounds. And of course, we will be dealing with a lot more of this on this theme in the future, and there's lots more of it. Of far more importance are the results for the general history of Irish Romantic literature, the Munster tale of the Two Swineherds must have enjoyed a favour extending far beyond the limits of its native province, or it would never have been deemed worthy of annexation and incorporation into their great heroic cycle by the northern storytellers. Good point. We thus get a glimpse, one of the few vouchsafed to us, of the considerable mass of romantic narrative that must have existed in the south before the rise of the Munster Bryan family to supreme power. That's Brian Boru, I presume, but which has perished owing to the fact that the chief collections of heroic and mythic romance were put together, excuse me, at a time when the northern kings of the race of Niall were dominant and attention was chiefly paid to the northern cycles. Excuse me. We are now in a position to utilize the varying elements of the tale for the history of the rebirth conception. As regards the actual incarnation incident, the latest portion of the extant text, it is of precisely the same nature as in the Cuchulainn and Etain stories. The persona incarnata has to actually enter the body of the mother, and his subject is subject to her form and to his own sex. Personality may be assumed to continue, at least we may say that the storyteller regarded the enmity of the two bulls as due to more than ordinary bovine rivalry. The earlier part of the tale is more interesting from the possibilities it suggests and the circle of personages it involves. Owing to the concision and incoherence of the extant text, it is impossible to have a clear idea of the transformation process. All we can be sure of is that the personality subsists in its entirety, whatever be the form under which it manifests itself. But the main point is that the masters of the swineherds belong to the Tuatha De Danann, the same clan of divine beings to which Manannán, Midger, and Lugh are members. It is apparently owing to their connection with this mysterious wizard folk that the swineherds possess their superhuman attributes. And there you go. Yep, that's probably not a good barometer, Vicky, to be to be measuring my pronunciations against. But thank you for the compliment. If it sounds convincing, maybe it is. That is where our story ends for tonight. Don't forget, just a reminder that the 2022 Mythical Ireland calendar will be printed next month in October. You can order your copy on the Mythical Ireland website on mythicalireland.com. Don't forget also my usual reminder that you can support Mythical Ireland by becoming a patron. Patrons have been treated to a lot of extra material over the past while. The latest forthcoming in the next couple of days is the September update, exclusively for patrons, to tell you all about the other things that have been going on in the background here. Things have been very, very busy, to the point where I'm beginning to wonder if I shouldn't split myself into the two swineherds, so that I could maybe do double the work. We will continue that theme. Also, arriving in the past couple of days, apologies, has been a book that I didn't have in my collection, which is Irish Fairy Tales by James Stephens. And that was first printed in the 1920s, I think, 1924. And there is a version of the story of Toan McCarroll in that, which I think I will do as an episode or two over the next short while. Let me just see how many pages are in it. Yeah. That's definitely two episodes. So there you go. Hope everybody enjoyed that. It's interesting, isn't it, how much has changed over the past while, that a lot of people are back at work, and just between one thing and another, a lot of people back in offices, and a lot of life going back to normal. But anyway, we'll keep doing our live streams on Mondays. We'll keep going as long as there's material to do it and energy to read, of course, which helps as well. Yeah, very interesting tonight. I enjoyed that myself. Gave me a few insights into stuff that I've written about the Mata, and the fact that there's even mentions of a dragon. I'm just wondering how that gets into and what the original word was from which the word dragon might have been translated. Thank you, Anne McCallum. Glad you enjoyed yourself. And Adina Sparks. Yes, indeed. And Joe Butler. Thank you indeed. I hope that, you did enjoy it, obviously. Patricia McAteer is on the Mythical Ireland community, who's. This is Patricia's comment. Thank you and have a great week. I'm loving watching the mural unfold. Yeah, it's brilliant. I've been trying to capture it pretty much every day. It'll be fabulous to see it finished. And remember that this mural is what we might call bipartite. It's in two parts. So there's a wall closer to the River Boyne, and that's where Finnegas is going to catch the salmon. The part that's being painted at the moment, which is the larger portion, is where Finn is sucking his thumb after burning it on the salmon that's cooking. Brilliant stuff. Jay, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. It would be interesting to study the origins of dragons. It's absolutely, it would, Mark. 100% right. Thank you. Is it Erica or Emily? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Sean says, first time here. Thank you. Well, I hope you come back, Sean. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on the YouTube channel, which I think you're watching on YouTube. Come back every Monday. And who knows, we might do some more stuff in between. In the meantime, all that it remains for me to do is to wish you all a very good night or a very good day or a very good morning, depending on where you're watching in the world. Ikawa, Kolosov, Slán the Full. And of course, most importantly of all, Toga Bugay. Take it easy. See you next week. Don't forget to keep an eye on the Mythical Ireland Facebook page. Lots of updates happening there every day of the week. Thanks and good night, everyone. Slán the Full. Bye-bye.